चाहिँ 5 स्टार होटलको स्ट्यान्डर्डमा घरमा बस्नुहुन्छ, तपाईलाई मन परेको कुनै एउटा प्याड रोजेर लाउन पाउनुहुन्छ हैन। तर तपाईँ चाहिँ भान्सामा सँगै बसेर तपाईको बा अथवा तपाईको भाइसँग हजुरबा हजुरआमासँग बसेर एउटै डाइनिङ टेबलमा खाना पाउनुहुन्न भने के हुन्छ त्यसको इम्प्याक्ट? वी हेभ टु स्पिक अबाउट द डिग्निटी. इच गर्ल डिजर्भ डिग्निटी ड्युरिङ द मेन्स्ट्रुएसन. द्याट मिन्स सी क्यान डु एभ्रिथिङ no matter whether she has a period or not. तपाईँ 5 दिन पो मिन्स हुनुहुन्छ त, तर because of the restriction during the 5 days, you have a feeling of dehumanization throughout the month, throughout the life. के पावरलेस भएर हुर्किनुहुन्छ के? यसलाई एकदम होलिस्टिक एप्रोचमा एड्रेस गर्नुपर्छ हैन। प्याड मात्रै बाँडेर अथवा इम्पोज गरेर जबरजस्ती गोठहरू भत्काएर अथवा गाली गरेर पत्रिकामा निकालेर मात्रै हुँदैन के। महिनावारी चाहिँ भनेको अष्ट रगतो फोरी रगतो भन्ने जुन भ्रम छ त्यो भ्रम नै निकाल्नु पर्छ। डिग्निफाइड मेन्स्ट्रुएसन भनेर भनिसकेपछि सुरुमा मान्छे रिसाउँछन्, अनि बिस्तारै कन्भिन्स हुन्छन्, बिस्तारै प्र्याक्टिस गर्न टेस्ट गर्न थाल्छन्, अनि विदिन 5-6 months दे स्टार्ट टु अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड, अनि दे लिबरेट बाई देमसेल्फ.
Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste. Thank you for those wonderful images to set us off. For these inspiring 3 days ahead on Menstrual Talk, Dignity First. First of all, good morning. Namaste to everyone from East, West, North, and South. It's 3:40 a.m. here in Geneva. Very late, I know. Back there with you, Millie, in California. and of course, early morning in the Royal Kingdom of Nepal. I'm so excited and privileged, and thank you, Radha, for the opportunity to kick us off on these 3 days ahead. Just to frame very quickly in 1 minute, human dignity is really at the center of our conversation for these 3 days, and as a part of the menstrual movement. But we all know that human dignity is a part of being human itself. It's a concept that is tied to the very nature of humanity and has nothing to do with race, religion, caste, or class. And who better to kick us off in today's session on dignity and human dignity and menstruation than Kamla Bhasin ji. Kamla Bhasin has been, actually requires no introduction, but of course is the feminist advocate activist who in 1998 set off through this amazing meeting in Bangladesh of gender trainers and activists who kicked off Sangat, an inspiring network that continued for 2.5 decades to inspire, to mentor. But my memory of Kamla ji is very personal. As a young development practitioner, doing some work with DFID and Government of India, I remember Kamla ji mesmerizing all these skeptical civil servants, planners, finance people around how to really bring gender center stage into the next 10 years of DFID's work in India. So without any further ado, over to you, Kamla ji, to kick us off today with your keynote speech.
Long live the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I express my solidarity with the organizers of this very important international workshop on dignified menstruation. I salute the Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation, and I salute the Radha Paudel Foundation for bringing us all together today. I congratulate the government of Nepal for joining the global feminist civil society for this very important issue and to accept and promote the dignity of menstruation and to place dignity at the center of all gender discourses, policies, and strategies. Friends, Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights says, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Today I would say all beings, not just human beings, should have freedom, dignity, and rights. However, unequal and unjust systems like patriarchy, race, caste, class, and many others have denied large numbers of beings dignity, rights, and freedom. Patriarchy has denied us half the population of the world dignity, freedom, rights. All these unjust, exploitative, oppressive systems of power and hegemony are based on lies, white lies, like men are superior to women, whites are superior to blacks, Brahmins are superior to Dalits, so on and on this story of lies goes. Before the origin of patriarchy, nature and the feminine principles were worshipped all over the world. Why? For their creative, life-giving force. Mother right was universal. after the emergence of patriarchy, father right had to be established. That required the big falsehood, the big lie of superiority of the human male over the female. That was created by patriarchal religions, which have all been made by men, controlled by men, interpreted by men. Friedrich Engels called it painfully beautifully. He said this was the world historic defeat of the mother right. The mother right was put down and God the Father concept was imposed on us. And from equality, we have been moving to inequality, to indignities, to lies. In this context, I congratulate the Global South Coalition for leading this initiative to restore dignity to menstruation and childbirth, to restore dignity to nature. Lack of dignity, friends. Lack of dignity, friends, leads to feelings of inferiority, self-hatred, lack of self-confidence. It leads to lack of access to public spaces and opportunities. Lack of dignity undermines our right to education, right to health, right to work, right to non-discrimination and gender equality. Dignified menstruation means, please listen to this carefully, it means the state of freedom from all forms of stigma, restrictions, discrimination, abuses, and violence associated with menstruation. People born of our menstruation have the audacity to call us impure, to call our menstruation and childbirth impure. From now onward, non-menstruators will not decide what menstruation is. No more mansplaining about menstruation. Those of us who menstruate will decide, and we will take back our dignity of our menstruation, our bodies, our cycles. Dignity will be at the center. अस्मिता केंद्र में होगी, अस्मिता होगी केंद्र में. Our bodies, ourselves, friends. Freedom from falsehoods and lies of patriarchy. Freedom from indignities and taboos. Freedom from shame and silence. Freedom from unequal, insulting traditions and religious practices. Freedom also from modern profit mongers, corporates, who spread the same shame by calling pads whisper. No more whispers, friends, no more whispers. From now onwards, loud calls for dignity and freedom, loud calls for rights and equality. Enough of patriarchy, caste, race, class, heteronormativity, etc., etc. The biggest change we need is in our thinking, in our mindsets. Our strategies will focus on changing patriarchal mindsets, patriarchal attitudes and practices of everyone. Dignity is our right. Gender equality is our right. And together we will struggle for these rights, and we will put dignity at the center where it belongs. So friends, let the menstrual talk begin. Dignity first. Zindabad.
Thank you very much. Thank you. No more taboos, no more insults, no more patriarchy, no more whisper. With that, I'm going to go straight to our panelists, and it's such an honor, Namaste Ji, to invite you, Manmaya Pangani Bhattarai. You were at the head of our work in Nepal to really start. I cannot see you, Manmaya Ji. I hope, let me check that we can hear you first. Manmaya Ji, are you with us?
Yes.
Yes. Can we see you? Is it possible to put on your video so that everyone can see you?
Open. I already opened.
Yes. Thank you so much. Namaste. Manmaya Ji, you were at the beginning of the journey in Nepal, and under your guidance, we really started the work in Nepal to change the policy. So I need to ask you to remind us why, in your opinion, in particularly from Nepal's context, why is dignity so critical, so important to the global menstruant movement? And in your experience, has it been sufficiently a part of the work in Nepal? What do we really need to do to break the silence with dignity and to address the need of all menstruators in Nepal and globally with dignity? Manmaya Ji.
Thank you. Respected chair, distinguished participants from different countries. Today I am very happy here. I want to say good morning, namaste all of you. First of all, I give gratitude because Global South Coalition, Dignified Menstruation, and Radha Paudel Foundation just not did, but you demonstrate things, how to combat discrimination. First of all, I really appreciate you all. We were together in that issues and started from day one, deserve dignity during menstruation, because our thinking is one, our mindset is one. We want to deserve dignity for our next generation. So we know menstruation is a natural process. It is including of class, region, caste, education, everything. So I think our strategy as well as this conference motto is to protect girl child human right during the starting their life. Respected Kamala madam already asked here. This is for human right implementation. Protect gender equality with meaningful implementation of dignity of women. So we thought about urgent concern to address discrimination within home, within society, within workplace, and so on. So in previous year, we want to organize international conference, but in COVID situation, we did virtual conference, and our government started work on it. I think all become one village nowadays. So we want to make all as a Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. With this movement on the social taboo against menstruation is prevalent throughout the country, not only our Nepal but also all over the world. Different names during this period. So it is more severe in the western village in Nepal in the name of practice Chapadigot. So Nepal government follow the two things. Nepal's legal system also takes Chapadigot tradition as a serious violation of women and girls' human rights. So that government of Nepal has taken twofold action to break this tradition. On is regulatory action and the other is participatory campaign. So government has been supported by the parliamentaries, political and local religious leader and civil society. We did campaign. During campaign, more than 9,000 people, 9,000 political leaders participated there. Within 2 months, we able to dismantle Chapadigot, 8,550. So our strategy is putting dignity at center. We are here, whatever we were, whatever we are, whatever now, government is encouraging the philosophy of dignified menstruation.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you so much.
Talk and dignity first, yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mynmar Ji, for that very powerful example from the ground, and particularly for reminding us about the horrific practice of Chaupadi in Western Nepal, but most importantly that it is possible to stop these destructive, cruel practices. And you are an example of that where there is really political will, it is possible to bring dignity back to the center of the menstrual movement and bring respect back. I'm going to now move to Nandar, an activist and author and writer and worker on menstruation. Nandar, I don't see you though, so let me check. I don't see you online.
I already opened my video and...
Oh, wonderful. Namaste. Thank you so much for being with us. And for you, can you really situate for you why and where dignity is critical in the menstrual movement, and tell us a little bit also about your work on this issue. Over to you, Nandar.
Thank you, Archana. Myanmar, I think I'll start by my country actually. I'm from Myanmar. So Myanmar has signed one of the UN treaty where it promised to forbid any harmful culture and tradition or practice. However, from the day I was born, I've experiencing the harmful cultural practices such as like exclusion women and girls when they are menstruating. This is an example of how policy alone cannot fix the problem. And I think it's about telling a different story like we are doing right now. And it's time to talk about the actual effect that these taboos are causing. It's been 10 years now since I first bled. but I still remember the painful experiences that I had to go through for something that naturally happened to me. And I want to make sure that no other girls and women have to go through what I've gone through. And I think the very first step to do, or the very first step that I am doing, is by speaking against it. Silence will not bring us justice, because I am a believer in dialogues, and dialogues will make people think, question, and act differently. And I think we must voice out, putting the dignity at the center during the menstrual talks. And this is what I do in my work as well. Like, one of the biggest mission that I have in my organizational work is to eradicate this menstrual taboo and practices that we have like so long embraced, and how negatively this has impacted in our community, our girls, and our society as a whole. And for me, I must say that the best there's no best way to do it, or one way to do it. There are several ways that we can approach this. Like, one of the thing is to have dialogues and conversation about it, and starting to tell different story, because we have so long believed in this stereotypical and mythical story that are not truth. And I think it's people like us who are here, who have to tell the different story that we have actually gone through, and start the changes that we want to see. So that's that.
So much. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're writing at the moment?
Well, I've not been writing so much these days, but I have been running campaign this year, earlier in March or February. I run a campaign called Menstruation Is Not Shameful, and I have reached to like over 150K people who have
Wow.
participated in the campaign. And there were so many people who were against it as well. But I think the very best thing about that campaign is that the dialogue around menstrual taboo has been on the table. And I think that's really important. And that is a very first step that we have to do. And that's been on media as well. And I think that also play a big role in people's minds. Like, people have been starting to think about these issues, and people have not been thinking about that at all. And that is the very root cause of the problem, one of the root cause of the problem, people not thinking and acting. So now we've been thinking about it, and I think that's really hopeful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, and reminding us that we must never forget how things changed at puberty for all of us, no matter where were, even if we were not secluded in a shed, things changed the moment you menstruated, and it continues to affect every young girl at puberty, where unspoken changes sometimes really, really leave such a long-term impact. And this happens everywhere. Doesn't matter where you're situated, what socioeconomic class. Thank you. I'm going. Hello, Stephen, were you able to join us? I'm just checking if Stephen was able to join us from Tanzania. Stephen is an advocate and executive director of Hope Revival, children's organization, and a very powerful voice on menstruation, but I'm just not sure he was able to join us. Stephen, I don't hear you, so while waiting for you, I'm going to move to Millie, if I may. Please do try and join us, and if you need help, please do reach out to Anuja or Radha, please. Millie Adhikari, wonderful to welcome you all the way from California. Public health practitioner, a menstruation activist, and the director from the US for the Dignified Menstrual Chapter. Over to you, Millie. Tell us how and where you think dignity fits in the movement. Have we done enough to really address the needs of menstruators with a dignity framework? Over to you.
Namaste, good evening, good morning to all parts of the globe. Thank you so much, Archana and this panel. And first, I would like to say that we are already doing the work. It's happening now. striving to ensure dignity is the most critical component to achieve menstrual equity because it ensures that all physiological, psychological, and social needs of the menstruator are met. When we are ensuring dignity of oneself, we are addressing the highest level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Thus, with dignified menstruation, we are addressing the need for menstrual products, a safe and clean environment, infrastructure, access to comprehensive reproductive sexual health services, and most importantly, we are restoring an individual's inalienable human right to dignity. I want to ask you a question, and to all the audience. Why are there 1 in 3 women, menstruators, survivors of rape or attempted rape? Why is it that globally 38% of all women menstruators who are murdered by their male intimate partners? Why are 137 women menstruators killed by members of their family every single day? Why is it that despite exponential differences in GDP amongst countries in the global north versus the global south, the statistics for interpersonal violence ranges closely at 23.2% for high-income countries to versus in the global south is 37.3% in the low-income countries? Why is it that 70% of the global healthcare workers are menstruators, but menses was not a consideration when designing COVID-19 PPE? Why? We have spent decades of our social work trying to suppress the symptoms of gender-based violence. However, we have been missing the underlying and root cause, which is menstrual discrimination. Menstrual discrimination plays a critical role to construct the toxic power roles, dynamic, and social structures that create and maintain the current environment that allows for gender-based violence, assault, murder, domestic violence, female genital mutilation, and dehumanization of menstruators. This gendered power dynamic initially begins at home. Everything begins at home. It begins with the observation of practices of menstrual taboo, shame, stigma, restrictions around menstruation, which then further develops in schools, communities, through our culture, which is then supported by the larger society. This power dynamic attributes the menstruator as weak, as inferior, as less than, whereas the non-menstruator is the all-powerful, is the superior. They can go everywhere. They can do everything and touch anything. 365 days of the year are the same for them, whereas it is not for the menstruator. As a result of menstruators' internalization of the inferior and non-menstruators' socialization as a superior, menstruators are disempowered and don't have the resources or empowerment to resist against sexual assault, violence, rape, and other forms of GPV perpetrated, which we know statistically, by non-menstruators in their family. So despite decades of vital work in eliminating violence against women menstruators or attempting to eliminate gender-based violence, we are still being abused, discriminated, killed, or we are simply dying due to negligence. These statistics are worse for sub-vulnerable populations impacted by race, caste, gender, sexuality, class, and their geographic location. Dignity, it's not, the question I always feel is not where does dignity fit in, but why has it been missing from the center? How have we been revolving around the world and not understood the importance of dignity? It's almost like trying to figure out, does the earth revolve around the sun or does the sun revolve around the earth? So, I think it's really that menstruation, this powerful, natural, magical phenomenon is a global social stigma, an abomination of the body, a blemish of the individual character, and a characteristics of an inferior social group. This is a global pandemic, which is sustained through powerful socialization, through internalization of taboo, power dynamics between the menstruator and the non-menstruator, and supported by systemic violence. So it belongs in the center where it's always been and where it's always been missing or hidden or ignored.
Thank you very much, Millie. And also, I remind everyone that we are in the midst of the campaign on the annual 16 days against violence against women, on violence against women, which kicked off on the 25th of November. So what better time to pay tribute really to human dignity and to remind ourselves that women's rights are only human rights. And this is not just about chowpatty or violence against women, but it's against the silent violence every day. And really shunning menstruators, calling menstruation impure, unholy, dirty, is silent violence every single day, every month when a woman menstruates, and right through her menstrual cycle across the life course. So really, let's take a moment to remember that the 16 days reminds us not just to fight against rape and violence, but to fight for women's rights, to stand tall every day as human beings alongside men, alongside gender diverse people every single day. Thank you, Millie. And I'm going to check because I hope Stephen was able to join us. Stephen, are you there? Were you able to join on the phone? I don't see you, but if you manage to come in, please do speak at any point while I move on and ask Kamlaji whether she'd like to add a couple of points on this before I move to the second question. And before I move to Kamlaji, I'm just going to remind our 143 participants from across the world, a big shout out to you all. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. And I'm going to encourage you all to interact with your thoughts and questions in the chat box, because I will be coming across to you to ask you to join in very shortly. Thank you for your introductions. I encourage everyone to look at the chat box to see where all our friends and colleagues are from across the world. Please do identify your location, and thank you for your wonderful thoughts. Dance to the freedom, time to break the chain. We all deserve to dance, move, speak, and bleed freely. Absolutely. Over to you, Kamlaji.
Archana, I'm really delighted with what we have already done in the last 40 minutes. I just wish to mention that at least on my computer, the chat is disabled. I don't know why. Initially, it was able, now it is disabled. I think it'll be good if it is restarted and if people can chat with each other. No, I really always remember my own childhood when my mother spotted blood on my frock. And instead of telling me what it was, she just handed me a piece of cloth without telling me what to do with that damn piece of cloth, without telling me why. Why was I bleeding? Was I wounded? Was I sick? I had no idea. And my God, what it does to the psyche of a little girl, what it does to her self-confidence. She's coming into this world to flower, to flourish, and now suddenly this. And the people closest to her, not telling her what it is. And about 35, 40 years after that, I remember I was traveling with my 13-year-old daughter. I was taking her to her school, and we were in Bangalore in a small restaurant. She goes to the toilet. She comes back from there, sits down comfortably and tells me, Amma, I think my periods have started. I just go to her, give her a huge hug. And both of us walk to the next chemist. Within 35 years, this change from one daughter to another daughter. Thanks to whom? Thanks to the women's movement, which took away the shame, which gave us the courage thanks to the school where my daughter went to, and they talked about it. How much shame my daughter was spared, how much indignity she was spared, how much right friend come from information, from knowledge, from denying these lies of menstruation being dirty. And now we imagine the chowpadi, the gufa, where that child is put for 11 months, 11 days, without the sun, without meeting anybody, especially men. So I think what today the Global Coalition is doing, what the Radha Paudel Foundation has been doing, and what all of us globally are doing, I think was long, long overdue. And I'm honored and proud to be part of this. And I was delighted that the posters we have created, Sangat has created in the last 10 days, that even they were honored in the beginning and shown to everybody. I hope you will use them, you will translate them into your own languages. In feminism, there is no copyright, there is right to copy. So copy and spread and put dignity at the center where it belongs. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kamlaji, and thank you, Sangat. Absolutely, my favorite is the cup surrounded by the flowers. Oh my God, I love that. And you remind us that it's so simple, and you helped me really segue into what I want to ask everybody next. But I want to tell you, having come probably perhaps one generation after you, Kamlaji, that, it is so simple, isn't it? And it does start at home. So the dignity conversation cannot really change anything if it is really confined to the professional space, to projects. This is about hearts and minds. Let's remind ourselves that change starts here and here, not through funding and projects. And I think the Radha Paudel Foundation, Mynmar ji, are huge examples of this. In a context where it's not a wash with funds, donors are not queuing up for this. They're queuing up for sexual reproductive health linked to maternal mortality and morbidity. But does the menstruating mother, does the menstruating girl or postpartum bleeding really concern them? Not really, but it is simple. And I want to remind us all, before I come to you, Nandar, that we must bring men along. And I'm going to give you an example that touched my heart and made me know that I was on the right path, and that I want to share with you because I know that men will walk with us all the way if we start at home and with hearts and minds. I have 24-year-old twins, a little girl and boy. At that time, of course, as things would have it, my daughter started menstruating when I was traveling on work at the age of 9, but she and my son, Sarah and Chilin, knew all about menstruation. They had to. They were surrounded by it at home, the work I was doing. And guess what? She had a couple of pads for the first 2 days in her little emergency kit. She knew exactly what to do. Those days, there were no cell phones. I was proudly told on a phone call, traditional telephone call, "Mom, I got my periods." She was very excited. And then she ran out of pads. So she sent off, she was much taller than her brother in those days. She sent off her brother to buy her the next packet of pads from the banya. And he goes to the banya, gets the pads home. The banya, I think, almost fell over in shock. Was completely this, little boy, 9-year-old boy asking for stay free. Comes home, and then when I come back, his complaint was, "Why do I have to go every time?" But it's simple, Kamlaji. Thank you for reminding us. It is simple. This is not about huge logical frameworks and projects and programs. Let's get away from that to really come back to where it all starts. Human relations, hearts and minds, we have forgotten this. Aid and the development business makes us forget that human dignity and human rights starts at home. Over to you, Nandar. Tell us really where you think, and I loved what you started off with, telling the stories, right? We talk so much about research and the evidence and the data. There is no more powerful evidence than what you were reminding us about. Over to you, Nandar.
Thank you, Archanaji. Can I just start off by saying that I think what the examples you give and Kamlaji give should be the norm. Like that's how we should be living in the kind of society that we all want to live in. Like I think we need to start saying people who treat menstruation as undignified thing, as an abnormal thing, and as a bad thing, and start treating people who are saying and being proud of menstruating and seeing menstruation as a normal thing should be the normal people, and that should be the norm. Like on starting to put this dignified menstruation talk at the center, So I think we have to redefine what is normal as well, and that should start at home, in schools, in our villages, and all these things. And I think stories, and let's talk about story. I think stories matter because I think research may convince you, but it's the story that touches people hard to inspire them to do things. And I think because even with my activist work, I started off by telling my story, and that's where I begin my activist journey, because I didn't have any academic background on like talking about menstruation. I was not a doctor or nurse to really understand anything about it. The only classes that I went was human rights classes, and that's where I realized that this is my right, and bleeding is not a sinful thing that my parents or my society or my culture has taught me. And that's when I started to speak out my truth. Of course, there were a lot of barriers when you started standing up for justice and for your truth. But I think if that's your truth, it's important to stick with it, even though you may be alone sometime and you may have to leave some people that are so important to you. Because the beginning of my journey, because my parents embraced the culture and traditional practices so much, I had to leave their house to practice my rules, I must say. And it was really hard to leave the people that you really love and you grew up with. But because I started off outside them, without them, it was much easier for me because I didn't have to wake up every day feeling like the whole world is against me. So I think it's important to have your, how do I say, your circle, that people who you can talk to about these things and who treat you like this is an important and it's a normal conversation. So that's how I started off. And I think inclusion of men, I also think is very important because we can fix women as much as we like, and we can train women and empower women to think that menstruation is a deserve dignity. People who are menstruating deserve dignity. But if we don't educate non-menstruator on how how women, the terminology has confuses me in a way as well. I think if men do not participate in the conversation or in dialogue on menstrual talk, I think nothing can change. It's the man who has to be on table and who has to listen that this is not a disgraceful, dirty thing. And I think I'm thankful to all the men who are on this table right now, because I think this is how it starts. It starts by talking to each other, and it starts by listening to each other. I think men has to do a lot of the listening walk because they have done a lot of talking walk and not listening. And I think if we want to change them, we need to ask them to listen, and they have to start listening. So I would say women have to do the job of talking more and more and telling their story more and more. And silence will not bring us justice. Let me repeat that again. And men has to do a lot of listening work and try to give up some of their privileges that comes with the patriarchal system. So let's start with that.
Thank you so much, Nandar. That was extremely eloquent. And yes, men out there, I hope you're hearing this. Listen and learn, after centuries of dominating the discourse and the conversation. Thank you, Nandar, also for reminding us that we must claim our own space that we're comfortable with. Whatever hard choices, whatever hard realities may come with that, the choices we make that help us to be true to our own truths are really important in order to really grow and speak our mind. I'm going to check once more if Stephen, I'm really disappointed that he's not here, but if he cannot join us, I am looking to all you wonderful men out there who've joined us for this session today. I will be really looking to you to come in very soon. And I'm also just telling you all who cannot, any of our panelists who cannot see the chat, that the chat basically congratulates all of you speakers and assures us. And I'm going to read, I am in the middle of 3 generations, and in between I continue dialoguing with my daughters, daughter-in-law, granddaughters, and sons. It's very challenging, but I will keep doing this. This is from Radha Koirala in Nepal. And everyone congratulates all the speakers. So thank you so far for doing a great job. I'm going to come to Millie. Millie, you specifically referred to sexual reproductive health. And, I did not introduce myself in terms of where I'm situated professionally. I'm currently with UNAIDS, Geneva, and I work on gender, human rights, and community engagement within the global AIDS struggle. And of course, menstruation's completely absent,
Mm-hmm.
You're lucky if it's even referred to in passing. It is not. It is not shocking, actually, because the silence extends from our homes and hearts and minds into the professional siloed sectors. And menstruation doesn't fit in any. It's just considered a personal, manage it, deal with it, cope with it silently in stoic kind of silence, figure it out. Over to you, Millie. What are your thoughts on this?
Arsanaji, I think that my awakening of the need for menstrual equity began when I discovered how I have been, throughout college, all my college years, and in my career, I've been really focused in sexual reproductive health because I've always felt like it's wrong that I feel ashamed of my body. It's wrong that my culture makes me feel that I should hide everything and that I should be the perfect, daughter and the perfect woman and the perfect child. And that begins by hiding all the things that make me who I am, starting from my body and my menses. But, I thought that I was doing work in sexual health. So I was a sexual health educator for many years and an HIV counselor and a HIV test counselor as well. So I've done a lot of work around that. And after I graduated from my bachelor's in public health, I sort of discovered Radha ma'am. I just sort of discovered her in the sphere. And I thought, you know what? I need to go look for her. And really, I was lucky. I had family friends who had worked with her. And after I found her work, I just thought, oh my God, I've done, countless courses. I've done, so many of my internships and externships and little, courses in other schools have been involved in teaching sex ed. But did I talk about menses? The answer is no. I did not talk about menses. I did not talk about menses when I was talking about consent. I did not talk about menses when I was talking about reproductive health. I didn't talk about menses when I was talking about pregnancy. What was I even talking about? I really thought that when I got to the end, I was like, wow, I have spent all this time just talking around the subject, and exactly how like we are doing now when we're talking about the menstrual movement. Things have been done, right? When we see that, as Kathmandu is telling us, as you are telling us, that these changes have happened over generations. They have. But I truly believe that it's too slow now. We are dying every single day, being murdered, killed. And the change is just too slow. And I really think it's because we are missing that critical component. And I really like that you mentioned that, we're worried about maternal mortality rates because that comes out in quantifiable numbers. Dignified menstruation is not popular because first, it's not really palpable. Second is because it produces no quantifiable number that we as a capitalistic society look to see as product. We are interested in how many pads have we distributed to 8,000 pads to 8,000 menses. One menses cycle? What does that do? What does that do? So we're really, again, not targeting the problem and the root. We're treating all the symptoms. We are saying put a pad on it, put a tampon inside, deal with it, right? So again, we go back to what is the root? And the root is that we consider this to be impure. We consider this to be shameful, inferior, something we don't even consider. And so the dignified menstruation movement is really revolutionary. It's really asking for a transformation of the menstrual movement to be holistic and comprehensive. And because menstruation is such a multifaceted, complex phenomenon that we don't even know everything about. Birth control has existed for so many centuries, and yet we are still, when patients ask me, I work in a reproductive health clinic, when patients ask me, so I'm going to feel like X, Y, and Z, and is there anything I can do to not feel any of those things? No, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is it. This is where we are. Because while storytelling is also not there, research is also not there. The UN, we're having the 16 days of activism. Where is the day for menstrual discrimination? Where is the day? Not all 16 days are filled up. And right now, the Global South Coalition of Dignified Menstruation, we are campaigning for December 8th today to be the day for dignified menstruation. But where is it? We are asked, global leaders are saying they're going to, address the shadow pandemic, this domestic violence and interpersonal violence pandemic, but we haven't even recognized and given awareness and we haven't given menstruation the critical essence that it is. We have not recognized it. So it has to begin there. We have to begin there, but it has to be comprehensive.
Thank you so much, Millie. And you remind us about breaking the silence, that it's not broken, because I have heard so many people saying now that we've broken the silence, let's focus on tax, around period products, no, we haven't broken the silence. Let's not forget that menstruators can claim and make their own choices if they're informed and the silence is broken around products. They can start the movement around taxes. We're getting a lot of exciting questions, so I'm happy. But Mynmar Pangeni, if you're still there, Mynmar ji, she has just said, I started to work in my district as a chief district officer. We're coordinating with each other, with government and non-government sectors. Mynmar ji, I do want to ask you about public spaces. The dignity, yes, it starts with breaking the silence and really talking about it, but we must make it possible across public spaces, across government buildings, which set really the tone, which act as role models, which show that it is not shameful to menstruate and that there are clean, dignified facilities, with privacy for women to continue with their day-to-day activities during menstruation. Mynmar ji, are you there? Do you have any thoughts for us on this? Mynmar ji?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm so exciting. Exciting now. Yeah, this moment will be a powerful instrument. Yeah, for dignity and freedom from silence. So menstruation will be celebrated things, not a restriction. That is our motto. In this district, as a chief district officer, we advocate each other. And day one, when I came here, day one, I advocate to my colleague and started in my office first. And we organize this. Then we use our child ad network here, and they advocate. In this 16 days campaign, we did competition for this this issues. In our child network, be confident, and I advocate to other partner in very small district, and this is a younger child age district, new district. We all are here, not our office. We are in rent. We plan to organize our role model this district and started to work there. And this dignified menstruation, every workplace, we did a map. We organized a map. How it is implementable things. Yeah.
Wonderful, Mynmar ji. I look forward to really visiting your district.
Yeah.
I'm excited to visit your district and see how you've done this, because it's only by actually doing this district by district, block by block, village by village, city by city that we're going to get there, really translate the talk into reality. We are getting wonderful comments and questions. I'm going to put a couple of them out, and maybe if Kamla ji would like to look at some of them, I'm just going to read out a couple. One is really about from Shreya Goraseni. Is the distribution of pads enough for putting menstrual dignity at the center? I'm going to read 2 or 3 out. And please also raise your hands if you'd like to speak. There is also a very inspiring story example here. I teach health population to young schoolgirls, and this is going to help me to really make menstruation as a cycle of dignity central. There's also, there are lots of thank yous and congratulations, but I'm trying to find the questions. Yes, there is one on how do we do this? I'm trying to find, are there laws worldwide that allow women in the garment industry to take leave during menstruation? That is Tuvaraka from Sri Lanka. And I want to participate and teach young teens all over Nepal that it's okay to go through puberty. Body change is normal. Is there any chance I can work with the National Human Rights Team in Nepal? That is from Prashiksha Dungana. And I'll read one more and then come to you, Kamlaji, for your thoughts. Since I heard you say you still cannot read the chat. And also thank you so much for providing sign language and a request to speak slowly, please, because it's difficult for the sign language interpreter. And a thank you for thinking of hearing impaired people. So thank you very much. Please talk slowly. Yes, and a question to me. Namaste, I'm interested to participate to help young teens across Nepal and then across the world. I do not know how to start, and I was wondering if you could tell us where and how to start. Who better than our panelists to kick us off on that? Kamlaji, over to you.
Archana, I really feel that the most important thing is changes in our mindset. Once that happens, once I understand the lies patriarchy has spread so consistently, and I think one very difficult issue is to challenge religion, because religion is about faith. But if religion is at the root of spreading these things, and I am so terrified when I see people who believe in these hocus pocus, in these thoughts that menstruation is impure, and then they use modern medicine. For example, one of my friends in Nepal had to participate in the barsi of her mother-in-law, and twice in the last 10 years she was forced to take hormonal treatment to stop her menstruation so that she can sit with her husband. I mean, just imagine this hocus pocus being dealt by modern scientific. And both times her cycle went wonky. The poor woman had to suffer for months. So I really feel this mindset, and I'm so happy to read now, I can read the chat, that so many of them are speaking about working with young people. And we in Sangat have just launched Young Sangat in South Asia. We would like Young Sangat to be involved with this whole movement, and I'm so happy that my colleague Pooja Pant has joined us from Hong Kong, where she is at the moment. And my next point is, which Archana, you have mentioned, involving boys and men. I think this is the second most important thing. I, in my life, have met the most beautiful boys and men. I remember that my older sister, during her menstruation, used to have this dysmenorrhea, the worst kind of pain, and she would go cold. And I used to see my father and my brothers, older brothers, warming her hands. For hours, these three men would take hold of her hands and her feet. If we have such beautiful motherly men, but we need to talk to them. We need to talk to boys. So I really feel the time for patriarchy to go has come. Patriarchy has not allowed us Hindu women to do cremation for our parents. I think we will now cremate patriarchy along with the men and will say, goodbye, patriarchy. You have no place in 2020. You should have disappeared on 10th December 1948 when the Universal Declaration of Human Rights came. That should have been your end. But you have survived. You have survived with the support of capitalism. You have survived with the support of race and caste and class. And since all of you are twin brothers, I think all of you need to go now. It's time for all of you to go. And I think we should tell capitalist patriarchy that today we women are important consumers. We will reject your products if you don't behave. No more whispers. And don't tell us that your product will give me freedom. You will not make me stay free. I was born free and I will stay free. So get some new names and bring dignity to every product of yours. And really, friends, all of us who are here, we have power as consumers. We have power as citizens. And we women must confess that we are also responsible for internalizing patriarchy. We are responsible for consuming patriarchy and teaching us to the daughters. So for me, Archana, the fight for gender equality is not a fight between men and women at all. It is a fight between two mindsets. One mindset says patriarchy is better. The other mindset says no, equality is better. So I really hope we are setting something historical today. And I congratulate everyone who has been part of it and who has led this, and particularly my friend Radha Paudel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kamlaji. And I think what better time than, because I want to go back to some of the questions, but what better time to check? Radha, are you online and would you like to come in with a couple of words because we're going to be closing in about 10 minutes, and I'd love for you in this first session of the 3 days to come in because you have inspired so many of us, and it's really important that you address everyone just with a couple of thoughts. Radha?
Yes, namaste everyone. Very good morning. I'm so delighted to have you all. It's a real great honor. It's going great. We are making a milestone in the history of feminism, development and human rights. It's just the beginning. Each menstruators deserve dignity throughout their life. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Radha. The emotion comes right through. Let's give her a big hand. And I just want to go to a couple of thoughts before I'm going to ask all our panelists to give a closing statement, really just one small strategy. If you had a choice to choose one thing in addition to changing hearts and minds, what would it be? But just to read a couple of the very inspiring thoughts from the chat now. I'm from Nepal. Menstruation is a beautiful thing. It is a preparation for mothers. It helps the creation of human beings. We're so proud to be a part of it. In fact, it is a subject of natural science, not man-made trash. We're still suffering in our families and at the social level. I hope this movement will be the milestone for eliminating this taboo and for preserving something precious. We've just heard Stephen could not join. And then Simon Khatri from Kathmandu, Nepal, a member of the Global Peace Movement, shares that she's facilitating women on making cloth sanitary napkins for MHM. And it's a coincidence, but she just started bleeding. All power to you, Simran. All power. Beautiful and auspicious. Thank you, Kamladi, for introducing Young Sangat. It's Pooja tells everyone. Pooja, would you like to quickly introduce it? I can give you 1 minute. Over to you, Pooja. Please unmute.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
I hear you well. Over to you.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good evening, wherever you are. And thank you for giving this platform for me to talk about Young Sangat. Young Sangat had it's now launching from 10th to 12th with various activities. Yeah. And then you can see what we are going to do on Young Sangat. If you look at the Facebook page that I have given the link at the chat in the chat box. Yeah, I invite all you to be part of it, and we are hoping that a lot of young people will be part of it, and it will be a South Asian network, and we can share issues like dignified menstruation and like all kind of youth-related issues, youth and children issues, and then bring some solution, bring a change in this society, in this world. So yes, thank you and welcome you all.
Thank you so much, Pooja. And yes, thank you for sharing the details. I encourage everyone to look at the chat and join in. It's very important to claim this space in our idiom, our language, whatever it may be. And I think, Nandar, you reminded us very importantly to tell our stories. research and evidence as published in journals, many of which are not accessible, are only used by a small community of academics. They are not going to help us to globally change hearts and minds. They are important for bringing money into, but not necessarily to help us. May I request everyone to mute their mics, please? Because I'm getting an echo. And I just want to read, please mute your mics. I'm going to read from the chat a lovely thought. Some parents learn, this is from Shanta Adhikari, thank you Shanta. Some parents learn together with their daughters and children. As a mother learns as her daughter goes through Menarche and beyond. If your parents are willing to learn and tear down, demolish the restrictions and embrace dignity, help them grow, commence with them, rather than making them feel guilty. Be mature and raise each other. That's the only way society will change. Absolutely. We are all a product of our times. My children tell me all the time, with fondness, but very much reminding me that, Mom, your generation was a part of the problem. And really, with the passing of older generations, a lot of taboos, a lot of patriarchal norms will be no more, because they believe that younger people embrace diversity and race. All power to you, young people. But let's not forget what Kamlaji reminded us. As consumers of a monetized capitalist economy, we reinforce patriarchy when we let others make choices for us. So young people, I want to shout out to you all for your strength, your embrace of diversity, your demolition of patriarchy and gender inequality. But remember that your choices, your freedom, your spaces are taken away from you when you sign in to the prevailing, overarching, dominating capitalist modes of consumption that leave you with no choices or very few choices. So please don't forget that. As you wish our generations away, we did have more choices in that sense. But let's keep that also central. And one more last thought from there are requests, many requests for papers, for examples on how men and communities are engaging in menstruation as change agents. All of us panelists will discuss with the Radha Paudel Foundation how after this conference we can share with you on these important themes, and certainly not just leave this chat unanswered. I know we can share several because we have seen many of the research pieces and stories on this, but unfortunately we're out of time in this session. I assure you that as a personal commitment, we will take these chats and reach out, and as a part of the conference report, also perhaps look at how some of these stories and research can be shared in an ongoing way through Sangat, through the foundation, and through several other mechanisms in many other languages, so that you can share your stories and we can learn from each other. And with that, I'm going to move now to Nandar to ask you your last kind of passing thoughts for this session. And of course, we know you'll be coming in over the next 2 days, but really, what do you want to leave us with as we kick off these 3 days on really dignity in menstruation? Over to you, Nandar.
Thank you, Archana. You've been great, by the way. Well, I think it's important to keep having dialogues it's so important. I think when we talk about dialogue, it seems very it seems like it doesn't change. It's just ongoing thing. But I think dialogue really makes us think about certain things that we have forgotten to think about or have not at all think about. So I think we have to keep having dialogues. And aside from dialogue, I think having like empowering girls and women by providing right information and useful training and platform like this for storytelling is very important, because I think we have been trained to believe in wrong stories and like mythical story that from religion and culture and other things, information for so long that we think that they are the ultimate truth. Because I believe growing up, because if I touch anything during menstruation, I would go to hell or I would destroy certain things in my to the people that I love. And I think a lot of girls and women grew up thinking that those stories are the truth story, that their menstrual blood is disgraceful. So I think making right information accessible to those people, both to men as well. I think men also, because like initially, like you said, because men don't bleed, they think, I think Millie said that, because men don't bleed, they said they think that they are superior to us. This is one of the major factor that patriarchy system has been alive and sustainable as well. So I think we have to make those right information accessible, and that's an important step. And we need to normalize that every people who bleed deserve dignity as much as the people who don't.
Thank you so much, Nandar. Keep telling your stories, share them with us. We look forward to hearing more. I see Aditya Angira on the chat. Would you like to speak your comment, Aditya? Would you like to unmute? Aditya Angira?
Yes,
Yeah, please go
yes.
ahead.
I have a daughter, and it is the beautiful experience to have the daughter as such. I love to have it. I love to have my daughter by my side, and it's a wonderful experience. She is in the puberty age, and I do assist. I mean, I don't see that patriarchy or something. I mean, simple. My love for my daughter and love for my son, they are equal. I
So
love
much.
to.
Thank you so much, Aditya Angari. He reminds us it's so simple. A daughter and a son, beautiful creations.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
thank you so much, Aditya Angira. Thank you for sharing that with us. And Manmaya ji, there's in the chat, it says, thank you so much, Manmaya ji, for your valuable, inspiring speech and your important work. Can you leave us with one important thought from your work in the district and before that in the country, really bringing dignity into menstruation in Nepal? Manmaya ji.
Yes. I want to say one sentence only, that cohesion creates future. This is our cohesion that creates future. That means dignity. This moment creates positive vibes across the globe.
Thank you so much, Manmaya ji. And I can feel the vibes. And you know what? Even though it's only 5 a.m. here, I feel like, and I have had no coffee, I feel like I am ready to go without any sleep for the next 56 hours till this conference is over. Thank you for your inspiration and your work. It's not just talk with Manmaya ji, it's real work. Thank you for being an inspiration. Over to Millie. Millie, what would you like to leave us with?
You know, if I had to choose one thing, it's that I think menstrual discrimination must be viewed as a human rights violation. Like racism, casteism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, it has to be considered a violation of our inalienable human right to live, despite what gender I am, what sexuality I am, despite where I live in the world, what caste I was born into. All of these are social identities that further discriminate and marginalize us and make us vulnerable. So if we really want to achieve peace and dignity in this life, then we must consider menstruation as the very essence.
So much, Millie. And I'm going to give the floor to Rama Dhakal, but I can give you the floor for just 1 minute to share your experience on behalf of disability. Rama Dhakal, for just 1 minute. Over to you.
Yes, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I just want to say that we are suffering from this COVID, and all of us know that. But that we know that women with disability, they are compelled to stay at home due to coronavirus, and we all know the situation that that taboos that we cannot touch here and there and all those things. So they are having more problem on psychosocial. So we have to think on that side also. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rama, for that extremely important reminder that women and men come in all shapes, sizes, ages, and abilities, and really it's the environment that is hostile. The environment that does not respect difference, and of course hearts and minds. So let's remember, as we look at bringing dignity central to the menstrual movement, that persons with disabilities must be central too, as well as menstruators across the life course. Your experience is not my experience, was not my experience. I respect your experience. I also have a right to respect my experience and menstruate in full dignity, and menopause and dignity too, which I'm very excited happened a few years ago. And, that's all part of the movement. It's really breaking the silence with love and respect. And of course, now I move over to Kamlaji for her last thoughts for this session as we kick off these 3 days conference. Over to you.
My first thought, Archana, is that you've done a brilliant job of moderating this session. It couldn't have been done better. In addition to dignity, the concept of dignity, I want to bring 2 more concepts into our minds and hearts. The first is a 4-letter word called love. I think the world is suffering because that people love power. I think we have to move from love of power to the power of love. If there is power of love in our lives, patriarchy will have to disappear, racism will have to disappear, profit mongers will have to disappear. So, power of love. And my second concept is Ubuntu, the African concept, I am because you are. And I'm bringing this also to honor the global symposium going on in the world by the Men Engage Alliance, and we have our brother Lakshman Belbasi joining us from Washington, D.C. this morning. So Ubuntu, I am because you are. The world is because Mother Nature is. Human beings are because we, the menstruators, are. If you call us impure, then bring me 1 human being born without my menstruation. 1. Be that the Pope, be that anyone religious. Show me another way in which you could have been born. So love, Ubuntu, dignity. And thank you for this beautiful start. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kamlaji. As we kick off these 3 days of menstrual talk, dignity first, let's remember these really simple words from all our panelists. It's not rocket science. It's not projects, programs, Excel sheets, logical frameworks that are going to do it. Let's really work on our hearts and minds, spread the love, and spread the love wide, and listen. We women also need to listen and definitely force and bring the men along listening with us as partners, walking the talk together, hand in hand. Let's all us women lean in, stand tall with the men in partnership, and menstruators in all their gender diversity, trans men, trans women, bringing dignity to menstruation. Doesn't matter how you identify, what your sexual preference is. This is about pure life blood that gives birth and makes the world go around. The rest is really peripheral. This is lifeblood. It's pure, it's red, and it is giving this world the reason to go around with love and really combat everything, including COVID-19. We shall overcome all as we go forward. Namaste. Thank you so much to all our wonderful, wonderful participants from all over the world for your inspiring thoughts on the chat, for sharing your experiences and examples on the chat, and for kicking off these wonderful 3 days. And most importantly, to our inspirer, our mentor, our friend and colleague, Radha Podel, her wonderful, wonderful team, and the entire foundation, Lakshmanji, to your wonderful moderation, and to all our wonderful panelists, thank you and namaste.
Thank you so much, Archana. Thank you. Thank you all.